Welcome back to another edition of the Friday Show, presented this week by Rowayton, standing in Mooresville, Pennsylvania. That's about an hour's drive northwest of Philadelphia. I'm here with Joe Nevills, Bloodstock editor, and a special guest, Chris Kotulak, the CEO of Fonner Park in Nebraska. Before we talk to Chris, Joe, tell me a little bit about Rowayton.
So, Rowayton, a multiple grade 1 place son of Into Mischief. You know how hot Into Mischief is right now. Looking at Rowayton himself, very precocious as a 2-year-old, won on debut, and then hit the board in a couple of grade 1s, finishing the money in the grade 1 Del Mar Futurity and American Pharoah Stakes. Both of those races won by Game Winner, who went on to become champion 2-year-old that year. So you know he was slugging with some good company.
Well, thanks for the sponsorship from Rowayton, Glenn Brock at Diamond B, and Larry Best of OXO Equine, who owns the horse. Chris Kotulak, we know you from TVG, but you're back home in Nebraska now, and it's a really important time for Nebraska racing. A casino measure was passed as a constitutional amendment in the last election. Things are really looking up, and we're coming off a year where Fonner Park was kind of the toast of racing at the very beginning of the pandemic.
Yes, and we're going to continue to ride that horse, we hope, Ray and Joe, as long as we possibly can. Certainly, we were the center of the horse racing universe last March, April, into May. And we know where we sit, and we know we won't be in anywhere near as strong of a seat. But we also know that we captured some people's attention, and we're here for 11 consecutive weekends now, starting this weekend.
Yeah, opening day, Friday. And the weather around the country is iffy everywhere. Tell us what the situation is there in Grand Island.
Well, it certainly hasn't spared central Nebraska, which is where Grand Island is, 2 hours west of Omaha. Just to be very forthright, our main track has been closed coming up on Friday for 2 weeks. No horses have trained over our main track for 2 weeks. We have an equine exercise wheel, the Fonner Jogger, as we call it, and it has been used intensely, as you can imagine. And many horses came in here with a good foundation already before they arrived the first week of January. But the plan is, at this point, there is an insulating barrier of snow on the racetrack right now. Maybe it's only a couple inches, maybe it's as much as 6 or 8 inches, depending on drifting. Friday morning, the plan is to remove the snow off the racetrack. Now, I can tell you right now, having walked across it recently, it's muddy below the snow. So we will, if we were to remove the snow before Friday, it would just freeze up overnight. There's nothing we could do. So Friday morning, we will remove the snow. We'll have jockeys only who are riding this weekend get out there, take a spin over the racetrack, test drive one, if you will. So the track will be closed to training on Friday, except for the jockeys that ride this weekend. They will levy their opinion on the racetrack, and I'm certain it's just going to be muddy or a sloppy racetrack. And we are planning for all systems go. First race Friday, 2 p.m. Central Time.
Now, Fonner Park is unique in that it's a track running in, the Midwest that's crazy enough to do it on a dirt track in the middle of February. Under normal circumstances, can you tell us a little bit about what track maintenance is like in a situation like this? Sure.
It's dicey once you get a wet racetrack, obviously, but we do apply salt to the racetrack to help it from freezing. But Fonner Park first ran in 1954. This will be our 68th year of racing. But our first year of racing in February didn't come until 1980, so roughly 50 years ago. I went back and did some research. That week in 1980, sub-zero temperatures leading all the way up to that first February that we would race. But we got in all of the races that weekend. So we're hopeful for that. But certainly there's a lot of attention that needs to be played to it, Joe. And then when it does get to a situation, we make sure that we don't train on it if we don't have to. Give up a little bit of main track. We have a half-mile training track that gets used as well. So it's a lot of give and take with Mother Nature, Old Man Winter, the jockeys, the horsemen. You know the drill.
Fonner Park was such a center of attention last year during the early months of the pandemic. Looking into 2021, you touched off on this a little bit, but how do you even begin to set expectations for how many people might return that played it last year and just looking at things going forward?
Well, to be a little facetious, but honest, we are expecting 75% of capacity to fill that clubhouse on Saturday, because every Saturday we routinely, under normal circumstances, sell out our clubhouse at Fonner Park. Routinely, an 11 weekend meet, we're sold out on Saturdays. Now, we are expecting 75% because that's the maximum that we have decided, and we've decided to go with masks required as well for our clubhouse, for our entire facility. But certainly the fans are going to embrace coming back to the races. I'm equally as happy about the employees who earn a wage that are able to now come and tend bars, serve tables, janitorial, security, you name it. We were closed to the public last year. The question is, who's going to be watching us from Santiago, Chile, or Poughkeepsie, New York, or that, those that were betting us last year that were typically not betting us.
Is that why you changed the schedule last year when there was no on-track business? You raced, what was it, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Is that why you've gone back, because you want the on-track experience for the fans, and actually it's a good source of revenue for the track to have people there versus the incremental money you get out of wagering via ADWs?
You hit the nail on the head there, Ray. And just going back to last year, even though there were only a half a dozen racetracks racing in the early days of that pandemic, I knew I didn't want to share my signal with the tracks who were racing in the wintertime. So let's go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll go up against Will Rogers Downs. And then I decided, let's not go at our normal time. Let's go as late as we possibly can. We ultimately went at 4 o'clock, and I wanted to go 4 o'clock sooner. And we were fighting the sunset a couple of times there, but we had to find our niche. But here's what's not going to happen this year. One, we're not going to have all of the horse racing nation betting on us, because certainly we would be sharing Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. Plus, there's a lot more to bet on in the United States. There's more sports available, which there was nothing at the time. Oh, and by the way, the whole world won't be watching us. So for me, gents, it was never a consideration, even in the throes of it last year, that we would come back and return to the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday schedule. We are not promoting horse racing in Nebraska. We're not promoting the breeding industry for Nebraska, nor are we promoting the horse racing product. We're not marketing it if we're opening our doors to a lazy Tuesday afternoon at 4 o'clock expecting people to come and have a good time. No, the vibe, the Fonner vibe that I call it, it's like a mini Oaklawn Park. Now, you might roll your eyes, but we're a glass enclosed heated grandstand, less than half the size of Oaklawn, but we are packed like Oaklawn, and it's something that you have to experience.
So big recent news in Nebraska passing the casino legislation. How is that going to affect what Fonner Park presents and how Fonner Park looks in both the present and the future?
Well, it's kind of like you wish for something, and then that gift shows up underneath the Christmas tree, and you're hoping that gift is actually, first of all, that you're going to be able to open it, and it's actually what you want. But you're right. We did get the casino initiatives passed, and that means full-on games of chance, full-on Class 3 casino gaming in Nebraska. So that means that hopefully a year from now, we will have doubled the purse money that we're going to offer to the horsemen and breeders incentives, so on and so forth. It is such a necessary lifeblood for Nebraska racing. We are a shadow of our former self. In 1985, there were 745 Nebraska breds, registered Nebraska breds. Last year, I think there were 30. Now, this year, there might be 130, because already people are saying, hey, we need to get that mare to foal out here in the Cornhusker State and get ourselves a Nebraska bred. Well, that's the plan. But there's so much that will bloom around the casino industry in Nebraska, not the least of which will be the benefit to Nebraska thoroughbred horse racing.
Are you thinking, one of the unique things about Fonner is the fact that it's a bull ring. And the fans get up close, and on the television, it's a little bit different than watching a race from Belmont Park, say. So as you take some of this capital and invest it in the facility, are you thinking of changing the racetrack?
If it were up to me, Ray, I would say no. Now, I have a board, obviously, that needs to make that decision, and certainly if they wanted to do that, it would not be in the upcoming years. It would be a long-range plan. We all know that horse racing is not big, bad, and bold as it used to be. And I don't know, first of all, if there's space to do it. And secondly, if that's the kind of money my board wants to spend on that. And to your very point, Ray, I think it's a bona fide novelty and a beneficial novelty to have a 5/8 mile racetrack. There are horses and horsemen that do better over a 5/8 mile racetrack. Some of these horses might just get lost on a 1 mile racetrack at the lower quality. I think certainly we hope to build up the quality of horses here, but we are this cozy, charming little racetrack, and let other tracks that develop in Nebraska go with the 1 mile racetrack. That's fine. But I like our niche here, and I love that intimacy that people saw right up there on top of it with the 5/8 mile racetrack. I personally, if it's up to me, I hope it never changes.
Last year, I played more Fonner Park than probably ever before, and honestly probably played more Fonner Park than any other track I did in 2020. So I appreciate the bull ring. I grew up in a bull ring myself, so that's the kind of thing that really spoke to me. And it's fun to see the kinds of horses that, like you said, do tend to excel in that setting that might not do as well otherwise. One of those last year that really proved himself could go around those bull rings, Sleepy Eyes Todd, who won the Bosselman Gus Fonner Stakes last year, went on to win the Charlestown Classic, also around a bull ring. He's going to be running in the Saudi Cup this weekend. That's got to be pretty exciting to get that kind of graduate on the national stage.
He's our boy. There's no question of that. And if you were here on Bosselman Gus Fonner Day, when you saw him step on the racetrack, you thought, oh boy, look at this guy. And he ran like it. I mean, he is a pure D thoroughbred racetrack and just continued to go on to do that to the extent that we wouldn't have expected. And there's plenty of local support around him. And maybe people have forgotten that he did have that first stakes race win of the year at Fonner Park. And that's okay. I hope they don't forget Fonner Park when we start this weekend. But we certainly are embracing him and riding that horse as long as we possibly can.
As you should.
Well, Chris, the meeting goes through Kentucky Derby weekend. Is that correct?
Right. That has become our closing day now is Derby Day. So it's 11 consecutive weekends of daytime racing, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Well,
we wish you the best and everyone in Nebraska for a very successful meet at Fonner Park. We thank you for joining us. Appreciate it very much. And we'll be watching to see how that game day decision goes Friday in terms of whether or not you open on your scheduled opening day. Thanks for joining.
Watching and wagering, I hope, gentlemen. Hey, thank you. It's a treat to be a part of the Friday show. Thank you.
And before we sign off, one cheap plug that I want to run. Chris will be contributing to the Paulick Report in the coming weeks in our Fauna File segment, where he'll be sharing a few slices of life from Fonner Park on a weekly basis. So keep an eye out on that on the Paulick Report website, the Fauna Files.
And I hope maybe some wagering advice, which jockeys ride the bull ring the best and that sort of a thing.
Do you know that I gave up handicapping that final weekend of racing at Remington Park before I came up here? That ship has sailed. The pressure is off me right now. But right. I will be providing some photos that do share the Fonner vibe and some supporting paragraphs to go along with it with the Fonner Files. Thank you again for that.
All right, Chris. Well, thanks much. Here's a word from Glenn Brock, who stands Rowayton at Diamond B in Pennsylvania. Thanks to Glenn and to Larry Best again for their sponsorship of the Friday show.
We have a new horse, Rowayton, that we're very excited about. He's an Into Mischief out of an Indian Charlie mare. He was second to Game Winner in the Del Mar Futurity, narrowly beaten, and Game Winner, of course, went on to be the champion 2-year-old that year. He was 2/10 off the track record at Belmont, and just a very, very useful. In that race, he came from off the pace. Other races, he showed speed and was on the lead. I love the influence of the Indian Charlie. Into Mischief is the hottest sire in the country, and he's owned by an organization that's going to support him with not only with mares but supporting the industry by buying a lot of nice horses, and that's OXO Larry Best.
All right, well, let's go to our star of the week.
On the inside, Maxfield flew. Maxfield down at the inside, Blackberry Wine. 3/4, 1 minute 13.06 seconds. Maxfield asserts. Maxfield has taken the lead from Blackberry Wine, but now they're into this final fairgrounds furlong with Sonneman in third. Just Chief and Dinar. They come past the 16th. with Laurent Giroux. Here's Maxfield. He's now 5 for 5. Maxfield, magnificent in the mine shaft. He won by 4. Solomon was second. Pesci third. Blackberry Wine finished fourth to Maxfield. 143.67 for the mine shaft stakes.
Well, Joe, Godolphin's Maxfield is the star of the week, but I like to think of him more like Halley's Comet. You don't get to see him very often, but when you do, it's really exciting. 5 for 5, as John Dooley said. The one question I have about Maxfield is, has he really beaten anything that good yet? He won the Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland at 2. He won the Matt win last year, and now he's come back to win 2 stakes, this one being a grade 3.
I've made a run through all the horses he beat coming into this video, and he definitely hasn't beaten a group of killers in any particular field. He's beaten a few good horses here and there. Enforceable, he's beaten a few times, and he's certainly had his good runs in the past. Sonoman's a nice horse, Blackberry Wine, but, the interesting and appealing thing about Maxfield right now is that he's a horse full of potential. He's won every start, but you get the feeling that he's capable of so much more. And he just hasn't had the opportunity to show it yet because he keeps getting his campaign stalled out. But, you'd have to hope eventually at some point we're going to see him really slug against the heavyweights.
Yeah, he's I don't know if he's been unlucky or unsound. He's had 2 long layoffs, ankle chip, and then he had a condylar fracture that caused a long layoff last year. He's had 2 good starts back now, and if he can keep it together, I think by the end of the year, he will be a huge factor in the biggest races.
Definitely. And you can't argue that he hasn't done everything that he needs to do at this point. I mean, he's beaten every horse that's gotten put in front of him. He won the mine shaft by 3 1/4 lengths over a field that he definitely should have beaten by at least 3 1/4 lengths. Only horse in that field to carry 122 pounds too. Everybody else was 118. So little extra, sauce on that victory. Big question is, where do we go next? I believe trainer Brendan Walsh, really wasn't committal after the race, but he's certainly got a few different options here.
Yeah, everybody wants to know if the horse is going to go to Dubai because obviously Sheikh Mohammed would love to see him run in Dubai. But I think Brendan has tried to tamp that down right away and say, we're just going to enjoy this and map out a strategy for him in a few days. So we'll take it from there. All right, well, we're going to end the show with a toast to Vino Rosso, the Breeders' Cup Classic winning son of Curlin, standing at Spendthrift Farm.
So today we're focusing on a colt from the first crop of Vino Rosso out of the stakes-winning exchange rate mare Coup de Coeur. This flashy colt was born on January 31st at Spendthrift Farm, and he's a half-brother to the Grade 2 place runner Animosity. He comes from the family of Grade 2 winner Old Trieste and European Group 3 winners Perigi Moon and Valdemoro. I spoke with Spendthrift General Manager Ned Toffee about this colt, and he said this was one of the nicest foals they've had on the farm in a long time. Said he had a very classy look to him, athletic, balanced, has great bone, and very correct. We'll be sharing pictures of Vino Rosso's first foals throughout the breeding season so you can see what he's putting on the ground. And that's our toast to Vino Rosso.